I wanted to talk about today were evaluations in any of these areas, that is workers' comp, Social Security, or pensions. So, and I'm going to do each one separate so you get a sense of it. For purposes of workers' compensation, in workers' comp, there are two types of evaluations. One is what is called a need for treatment evaluation. So we make a request sometimes to send a client to a different doctor, or the insurance company is not sending them to a doctor, so we will send them to a doctor of our choice to get what's called a need for treatment evaluation report. That report will indicate that the person requires additional medical treatment, and then if that's at that point not provided, then we will be able to file a motion in workers' comp court to get that medical treatment approved or at least discussed. That's in workers' comp, a need for treatment. Now, when someone is all done receiving medical treatment, we then move on towards trying to resolve the case. So that type of evaluation is what's called a permanency evaluation. So it's an evaluation that's designed to establish what is the nature and the extent of the disability as a result of the injuries and medical treatment that was sustained and provided. So in comp, there's a need for treatment. There's also the evaluations to try and settle the case. So for Social Security, when somebody initially applies, sometimes Social Security will send them for an evaluation. Now, it's a little interesting. Those evaluations, the doctors are really doing more of a summary. They're doing a summary more so than they're actually providing any kind of an opinion. So we get a client will go and see an internist, or they'll see a psychiatrist or whatever for the specific purpose of having them evaluated. And instead of the doctor saying at the end of the report, in my opinion, I believe the person is disabled or is not disabled, the end of the report just sort of winds up being a conclusion that, well, this is what the person has, ... and then, if you have any questions, contact me. So they don't actually formulate an opinion as to the question of whether or not somebody is disabled. Now, those evaluations are really used, I believe, to help whomever is initially evaluating a case just sort of understand what the medical conditions are. I believe, quite frankly, it's really all they go by, and then they write the letter that says, yeah, well, that's not, you're not disabled, so we have to appeal anyways. But anyway, so for Social Security, that's the difference between a workers' comp evaluation and Social Security. Now, for pensions, when you apply for a disability pension, the pension boards are going to send you to an evaluator. The company that they use, all three boards use a company called IMX, and they have this stable of doctors that they use, same doctors every single time, for purposes of evaluations. And those evaluations are designed to render an opinion as to whether or not somebody is disabled from performing their job. Well, what then happens, of course, is that that doctor's opinion, which, by the way, we don't get a copy of the report unless the person has been denied their pension, but that report goes back to what's called the Medical Review Board. Medical Review Board, despite, let's say, the 4-inch stack of medical records that we might have sent over, the Medical Review Board will simply just look at what their one-time examining doctor has to say, and then they just basically say to the regular board, yeah, not disabled, and then the regular board just rubber stamps it at the agenda meeting. Having gone to enough of those agenda meetings, there is no independent thought that's being put into a determination as to the whether or not somebody should get benefits. By the time they get to that meeting, they have already made up their minds, and so it is not something that they're going to change, no matter what kind of presentation or speech or whatever we're going to be able to make. So anyway, so the evaluations done for pensions are, again, designed to provide an opinion more often than not that somebody is not disabled. And so there you have it. And I wanted to do that just to demonstrate that, in terms of the benefits that we're seeking for each one of these processes, the evaluations play a role, but they have a different role inside of each particular system. So that is what they are. Now, what we'll do too when it comes to these evaluations is in advance, we'll send clients a letter that says, hey, let me know how long you waited, how long you were there, did you fill anything out? And that just gives me a sense of when they write this 5 or 6 or 8 page report and my client says that they were there for 4 minutes, I get a real good sense of not a lot of work being done to generate a rather lengthy report, meaning they already had their minds made up before the client even got there. So again, another way to use that information on cross-examination if we ever had to litigate either in comp or in pensions. Social Security, basically, once you see that they've gotten a report, you can upload that or it gets uploaded to their system. And then basically we can get an opinion from the treating physician as to whether or not somebody is or is not disabled. And that certainly by law has to carry a greater weight for any judge, any one-time examining doctor in Social Security.